Hello beautiful people, so today in the morning maybe some of you have noticed a hero going by the name of GINA, which was leaked on the TOPWAR official Discord channel, but later on RiverGame has announced this MeowZilla hero, and I think it's absolutely worth it to evaluate this hero in this episode, but not just that, also ask your opinion about it in the comments. Because from my perspective, this hero right here would have fit far better right now in TOPWAR than the way MeowZilla is designed, which is yet again a token of RiverGame not learning their lesson or probably trying to learn it the hard way. So let's have a look. So first of all, by reading the preparation skill, you see this key sentence here: your Navy units will gonna get a 140% attack enhancement which lasts the entire battle. So in other words, yes, this is exclusively for Navy, and yes, this is an offense buffing hero. So in this case, yes, we will directly compare GINA with Stroy in this episode. But in order for you to understand better, let's actually start with the end. And the end is explaining this tsunami effect. And for that, that's why I have the hero tab right here, because I have to open up Brunhild, because that's exactly what this tsunami effect is. These are dots. And on top of this tsunami effect, we're gonna have a 30% damage decrease to the army and a 30% damage increase versus the Air Force, which sounds pretty great. We're gonna get into that in a moment, but first, you probably noticed there is no Navy in here, so just versus Army and just versus Air Force. Therefore, if your opponent would be also a Navy, this won't apply, and this will gonna play a crucial role. The second thing we have to mention about this tsunami dot, if you want to call it this way, is it has a certain damage value, but if you succeed to detonate it, because that's exactly what this hero here can do, it will gonna add an extra 25% damage increase. This is also an important piece of information. So good, let's go back to the beginning. So after every regular attack coming from the Navy units, there is a chance to trigger a skill attack which attacks 6 targets randomly. So it's possible that one slot can be attacked 1 time or 2 times, and of course it's gonna deal a 70% damage. And that's exactly what I mentioned a second ago. If those slots have this tsunami effect on, or these dots, it will detonate all of them and activate them. So the first thing which is important for me, and we don't see that in the hero description, is does this tsunami effect activates before the opponent hits from that slot or after that, just like Brunhild? That's for me personally an important question. Good, let's carry on with the passive skill, which tells us that all tsunami effects will also gonna be increased by 30%. The level 3, it's always the same. All units attack is going to be increased by 30%. And here we come to the tricky part, which is the level 5 exclusive skill. And when this hero is indeed in your match, all tsunami effects are enhanced by another 40%. And what's super important, at the start of each round, it will apply a 60% tsunami effect to 5 slots. So from this perspective, yeah, the level 5 is kind of super needed for this hero from my perspective. And of course, we see here the level 7 of this hero, we're gonna increase the tsunami effect by another 30%. So, you know what, let's put these two heroes back to back in order for you to understand a little more better GINA. So first of all, we have a 140% attack enhancement versus Stroy right here, which gives you a 75.6, for example, for all Navy units, and on top, just for the back rows, another 32.8. Now this value looks slightly different than yours just because Stroy is a hero with the skill based on the war, and that's why you see here my war stats coming also from decorations being at 50,452. So that's why that value is a little bit higher. So at this point, GINA kind of looks to have a higher attack enhancement. No, not necessarily, because you know what? Stroy has another 10% silence, and what exactly is that? For each damage reduction shield, it adds a 10% damage increase. Now, what are the damage reduction shields? You can click here and see the indestructible, the heavy armor, the resistance, and the light armor. Here is the tricky part. because, for example, the heavy armor and the light armor are two shields which can be deactivated when your opponent hits you with either with hero procs or with default regular attacks. So those can go away, and so is also this buff. But this is not just 10%, because if you have a look at the level 5 exclusive skill, that gives you another 25%. So we are speaking about 35% damage increase per shield. And the only shield in here which you are totally relying to, it's actually the indestructible buff, which is, if you have heroes like Shinji, Striker, Lila, Duke, it's going to be for 2 rounds. And of course, if you have that rune on top, it's going to be added for the 3rd round in a weaker phase, but it doesn't matter, it will be there. Therefore, this extra damage increase will also be there. So you see, it's not that quite easy to compare these two numbers. And of course, it highly depends on the performance of your opponent. In other words, how many times he gets his hero to procs, because these are taking the heavy armor shields down, which also reduces the damage. So that's that. But GINA right here has also a fixed value of 30% damage decrease versus army. And if your opponent is using Air Force, you get a 30% damage increase. So sadly, if your opponent has Navy, you get nothing. Now, the only obvious difference between Stroy and GINA right here is the fact that Stroy has this silence buff. At the beginning of each round, we're gonna apply silence on 2 enemy slots. And if you have, of course, the level 7 exclusive skill, which I don't have, that's going to be 3 slots. That can be very crucial. Just imagine for a second that silent effect will be applied on your heavy trooper, because that's the highest damage you can do from the heavy trooper when your heroes will proc. So this is definitely a very interesting tool, the silence. And on the other side, GINA has these dots, just like Brunhild. So let's carry on with something interesting regarding GINA, which is this sentence right here. Each hero can apply this effect up to 5 stacks. So this is literally similar to Brunhild. But the big question here is, what heroes can apply this? Would any hero apply this randomly, or do these heroes need to have an active skill? In other words, whatever slots they are hitting, they will apply these dots, because if that is the case, oh boy, that's doubling down on Mr. Duke's weakness, which is again hitting the back row. And what we also learn out of this is this effect can also stack up to 5, which means, in other words, it's all about the proc rate of this hero, which we can only test if the hero would have been implemented. Because once you have 5 stacks of this effect, if they are not detonated and that slot doesn't have its turn, you cannot apply more tsunami effects, therefore the damage will drop. So this is also a very important thing. So, beautiful people, here are my thoughts when it comes down to GINA. Definitely a very interesting design, probably again made by SpaceX. They simply love to entangle all these properties, which 99% of the time will just simply confuse you. And only probably a few percentage of players can directly understand how this hero kind of works right at the beginning. So yeah, dear beautiful people, now it's exactly your turn to share your thoughts with us in the comments. Would this hero GINA have been a far better choice in giving an alternative to Stroy instead of bringing this Mapling 2.0, which due to her design doesn't absolutely makes sense right now to be implemented, especially having Zen, which is still a very powerful hero, and it's a hero which was recently released, also on top being a collaboration hero, giving him a slightly better performance than the average heroes they are releasing every month. As always, yeah, don't forget to support what supports you back, which is this channel, which is me every single day with great videos, with answering a ton of DMs. Don't forget to check if you are subscribed. Don't forget to share this channel with your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to see me in the next episode. Ciao, guys.